mother fluffers! So, I've been promising videos and yet haven't made any. Not without the lack of trying, mind you. The main issue I want to say was the lack of a plan exactly what I want to do on this channel aside from streaming, and being the perfectionist I am, each video idea wasn't up to my far too high standards. But today, no more! I am throwing standards out and I'm gonna ramble about a story I now have in the making, and I'm gonna share my hyperfixations whether you like it or not! So let's go! Art time, art time! So, pirates. If you see my older videos or seen my art from Twitter, before the exit disaster, you probably know I have a thing for pirates. A fascination, if you will. I just love the theme so much, and the idea of swashbuckling, daredeviling, treasure hunting little guys going on wacky adventures just appeals to me so much in my brain that I ended up having, I want to say, the most fucking anime dream ever, and now it's all I can think about, like my addiction to cookies. A quick summary I would give this story would be a foreign woman travels to a nation of pirates and is suddenly dragged into their affairs and has to learn how to be a pirate captain of her own crew, all while learning things about this nation's past, in the simplest terms. We'll get into the meat of this later when I get to the next section, but for now, first concepts! Spoilers ahead, but we're going to get through half of the cast in this video because I spent so long on just the first 4 / technically 5. So yeah. The first set of concepts were to base them on how they looked in the dream as close as possible and then expand on more themes later. And I immediately forgot to do them in order and color them one by one in the beginning like an idiot, so forgive me for the confusing order, but I promise I fix it later. So to give an idea of this world, think of medieval fantasy with magic and powers and all that jazz, and our main focus point is in a nation of pirates, with any individual who have a sort of power or in a position of power, like say a captain of a crew, are part of this circle, like a popularity club run by some kind of captain of captains. And our main protag is this little gal, our future sea bunny girl, who will be named later. Travels to said pirate nation for whatever reason, gets asked to do a quest along with some pay, and of course happily fulfills that quest and thus gets dragged into a whole arrangement that changed her life. I also want to preface this right now, not even I found out in said dream what her deal was, so I am brainstorming her whole ordeal, but of course she isn't going to be alone for long as she travels. She picks up a few crewmates along the way. Now on to the final designs, woo! First up is Sea Bunny Girl! Or as she's been officially named, Maeve Jorana Parva. If you know your marine biology, like how I was lovingly informed by my good friend Emmy, Jorana Parva is a scientific name for sea slugs, aka sea bunnies. Plus it just sounded cool and more fancy-like. Maeve is also an Irish name, meaning intoxicating woman or she who rules, and that does fit at least some themes for her. As you probably noticed in our first concept, she was more human-looking, but because of plot point A, she is turned into a sea bunny woman, and thus gains powers related to poisons. The powers are still in development, so we ain't gonna get into that right now. I also thought Maeve could be a play on knave, which for some reason I thought was like a knight term, like an apprentice of some kind, to reference how she's inexperienced with sailing, but instead when I looked up knave, I got 2 definitions. A mole or a closed fist. I don't know, Google be whack, so let's just stick with intoxicating woman for the literal term. I wanted her build to be a good average, and since her transformation would be the focus point for her design, also for plot reasons, her hair gets cut down, so she'll be rocking short hair, and a few dots too, again, be like sea bunny spots. But she keeps her signature hairpins for a nice pop of color. Her nose is also like a little bunny, just a little heart shape, and with some colored cheeks, purely to look more sweet and innocent than she probably is. You also won't see it, but her limbs are a gradient as the same purple as her ears. And yes, she has a cotton tail in the center of her sea bunny tail, because why not? Before I started these designs, I caved and got a Pinterest to help with outfit ideas, and I knew immediately I wanted Maeve to look like she took random fabric or articles of clothing to look like a pirate, but still looks too proper to be a pirate. Her boots and arm guards have these like golden dome saucer buckle things, purely look like spots. She keeps her flower accessory on her hip to match her pins, and I imagine her shirt is just a puffy dress shirt with an extra attachment, which is this creamy ruffle part, which definitely doesn't help towards looking looking like a pirate. I gave her these puffy pants with a wave pattern to also maybe look like poison stains? Just something to make it look different, just to keep it from looking too plain. Fabric wrapped around her waist and with a knot and the loose ends in the shape of her ears. And she has this black pendant for, again, plot reasons, with the same shape tie and little vest matching her pants. Pretty solid design, I think, for her. I very much love her colors now. They look much better in this. Plus, she has an actual vibe to her. She has an actual look to her that isn't just plain old clothes that she stole from whatever drawer she had. And now we have Maeve! She's pretty blunt, but doesn't mean any harm by it. She's just saying what everyone's thinking, but doesn't ask. Although she doesn't have much to say on her own past, she's very interested in everyone else's stories, and wants to learn from everyone around her too. Along that, she's happy to help out anyone who's in need of it. Hence why she's gathering this little crew. Next character, let's go! Linus Saw! Despite this lad being the most normal looking out of the crew, I think he makes up for it with his personality and skills as a mechanic slash shipbuilder. I really only added extra details to his original concept. I made him more lean and toned, since he'd be the only one working with heavy machinery. He's got poofy hair, he hides under his hood. You can't see it in the final design, but he also does have a headband around his head. It's just covered by his goggles slash welding mask. I actually imagine he has his goggles on it first time he meets Maeve when she's trying to rent a boat, and suddenly this lad in purple and orange is telling her the man selling his boat to her is trying to scam her with a boat that will definitely break after a while, and thus she asks if he knows where to get a good boat, and he gladly directs her to his dad's workshop. I kept his eyes black most because I didn't want to add an extra color to the palette he already had, plus I feel like they added to his tired eye look. Done with everybody's shit, is especially gonna have things to say during this whole adventure he decides to join Maeve on. I gave him this big bag and extra pouches to carry things like screws and bolts or extra tools, along with his most handy dandy wrench, ready to whack someone. He's got all these silver accessories in his hair and outfit. My idea is he just welds them himself and just wears them for fun. And just at some point I decided, screw the metal circles for his bag and shoes. Make him square. His favorite shape is just square now. It's canon. He is a stand for squares. He's got these heavy duty metal-toed work boots, probably to protect his feet after one too many times he's dropped something heavy or his own wrench on his foot. And because he works constantly, he's got some soot and grime on his gear and his face because he probably forgets to clean off after welding. Also, fun fact, Linus is a Greek name meaning flax-haired. His hair isn't really flax, but it is also the name of a son of Apollo, a talented musician. So who knows, maybe one day Linus can show us if he's got some good pipes on him. And Saw for obvious reasons, meaning the tool, and no, he's not suddenly gonna ask if you want to play a game. And that's Linus! Pretty happy with him. He's just a grumpy workaholic who wants to achieve his dream of sailing to find ancient lost treasure, no biggie. But all the while, he'd rant and rave about the so-called crew he's ended up with. But he'll come around. Selkie, Kai, Mara! No joke, these last two designs probably changed the most out of the set we have today, and I love them to death. They're my little goobers. To get this out of the way, Selkie's story also will probably change the most. Her original plot from my dream was her skin was stolen. And that was it. Because Selkies are a Scottish folklore, specifically shapeshifters, who switch between woman and seal by literally taking off their seal skins. So I guess in Selkie's case, she was a human, and someone stole her human skin to reveal she was an axolotl monster? And again, that was it. There was of course a promise to find her skin, but as far as I remember, it was never a plot point again. Or I awoke before it was ever brought up again. We'll have to see if I dream a part 2. I kinda hope I do. I need to know. Does she get it back? What is she? First thing I did for her final design was look up actual axolotls, because I knew there was the classic, the pinks, and the other variants like cream and brown. But I ended up finding a sheet of other variants and immediately loved the look of the firefly axolotl. Just a little half and half guy. He's just a silly fella. And then some more interesting information was given to me by our local elf Emmy. Again! Without getting into gruesome detail, apparently some axolotl breeders switch their limbs because they can't really feel pain. They're just attach the new limb like nothing, because regeneration go burr, I guess. So our arms and legs are looking like new discolored limbs, and that's for a very, very sad reason, which you will learn later. Anyway, I did a concept sketch on another canvas to get my ideas down before trying to think on the spot. For Maeve and Linus, I had a good idea right off the bat for them. I just wanted to add more details and fix up the colors. For Selkie and our next friend though, there was much more room to experiment with them, so I did these concepts before the finals. I gave her these big frills, these things on the axolotl's head. Also made her head look smaller and flatter and therefore a bit more innocent. I kept the horns to somewhat reference the first concept, but I also wanted to use them to allude to some kind of power she have, which could be in reference to axolotl's regeneration by using other monster body parts as weapons, or maybe store them like weapons to use later. Another day to think on that. I want her to look more top-heavy, with her head, her fingers are webbed, and her hands are pretty wide to help swim and hunt better, thin legs to be nimbly, and a big axolotl tail to help swim faster, along with 2 extra that weren't originally hers. Oops, spoilers. Of course, she's got a bunch of scars from backstory, and her eyes I was thinking of keeping blue, but it didn't look right against her colors in the concept, so I gave her this more golden color with an orange goldish sclera to help them pop out. I kept up the eye shine I usually give my characters because I like the idea of her having this dead look, just looking less alive since her backstory. Also to save myself adding unnecessary colors, and cause we do the internet thing. Her tongue is the same color as her sclera, and they both glow in the dark because yes, we're doing the Tumblr thing, we're doing the internet thing. For her outfit, it was inspired by just skirts and crop tops. I also wanted to make it look like she threw a scarf and extra fabric around her because it looked pretty. It reminded her of the sea with the wave patterns, and sue her, she likes pretty shiny things now. All along, of course, just to hold it all up and keep a pouch for trinkets. I was going to add coins at the bottom of her skirt and ends of her scarf, but then I swapped them out for bells because I love the idea of her just taking a single step and just all you hear is jingling in the distance. She has no stealth skills. She's all for making herself known and then she jumps you. She does have a simple bandaged chested shorts for when she has to focus entirely on swimming, purely to look decent for everybody else's sake, and also to save herself from looking sus. She just has some ribbons and sandal soles to have these makeshift shoes, and doesn't even bother to tie them right like the creature she is. And that's Selkie, my little goober, my little creature of the crew. Because she's also a former monster becoming more civil, I can see her end up being navigator for reasons like her instincts help her detect changes in the sea, or sense some storm is coming. She might also be shiny obsessed, but she's trying her best. Last lad for today is Lavi! The best kind of doctor you'll ever have, and before anyone asks, no, the big fella is not a separate character, that's the same character. More on that later. So Dr. Lavender Sage, aka Dr. Lavi for short, started off very simple, so simple, I hated it, and was trying to rethink their whole design. I mean, everyone started off very simple designs, but they at least felt like they had a core feature. Maeve with Sea Bunny, Linus with Mechanic, feels since he's not a sea creature, so a job theme fills in nicely, and then Selkie with Axolotl. I didn't want to just leave Lavi at doctor theme like in the first concept because it felt like there wasn't much left for the character after that, especially if we have a quick rundown of their story, which is Lavi started off as a regular plush toy donated to a small island child hospital, and then was brought to life, supposedly by a demon who had then wanted him to eat the children, but then he never just did, and just started learning to be a doctor, and everyone was cool with it, I guess, until the whole island's residents mysteriously disappeared. Ooh, spooky. And Lavi just chilled in the hospital until Maeve and company showed up and invited him along, especially after the hospital caught fire and he almost burned inside. So yeah, might change up the storyline later for that. So I drew up another concept for him in his little plush form and big form with a very different vibe, but I was more than happy once I had got a Pinterest board up and expand on my ideas. I cannot stress this enough. If you are struggling with character designing, just make a mood board with a theme or two and boom, you'll have it so much easier. In the first concept, I used my basic shape I use for plush characters if you've seen these little guys. So I scoured around looking at how other people draw plushy characters and then decided, fuck it, he's cursed or something, so maybe he's becoming more organic, a la Poppy Playtime style. Just no experimented children, while he's been so alone. I mostly made him more plump and smooth looking. I should also mention, his pink side isn't natural. I imagine he was purely brown at first, but then his curse/infection has spread to cover half of him and given him his little demon tail, his horns, and his claws so he has hands. I was thinking of sticking to the doctor attire, but because I was streaming the second concept on my Twitch, at Pixel Secret, by the way, you can come watch me. I do stuff like this all the time. It's fun. Chat came in clutch with outfit ideas, which sparked another theme I could use for Lavi, and it'd be perfect, which was fairy tales, specifically Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. Cause, well, little guy, big bad wolf, it was a match made in heaven, or hell, we'll have to see. And I ran with that shit. Compared to most of his body, the outfit is pretty simple. Just a robe, boots, and cloak, and his signature bell, which if you've seen this lovely short, you'll know is pretty important because it sadly no longer rings once everyone's disappeared. Huh, wonder why. Also fun fact, while in his plush form, Lavi has this just floating hoge, because I said so, and it matches with his expressions whenever he has a big reaction to something. For the big form, I didn't have an idea really since I don't really remember it well, thus how we got here. That's the problem with my dreams sometimes. It gives me fuzzy images sometimes, so I gotta fill in the gaps myself, and I don't remember much, honestly, about him being big. I just remember he was super tall and had big hands, and I was more than happy to freshen them up with the second concept. With the Big Bad Wolf theme in mind, I wanted to make the big form look more like a wolf, or at least a more feral rabbit or hare. And in contrast with Lavi's plush body, where his head and lower half are big and torso plus arms are small, his big form has skinny but speedy legs, small head, and big arms to help with all the healing you could ever need. His body colors also are kind of inverted, to have the dark navy, blue, and purple. Navy blue because I wanted to avoid using a lighter black like in the first concept, plus I felt like it matched his red hood in this way better. His cloak also gets some sleeves, which he usually wears like an off-shoulder, but I like the idea he puts the sleeves on to hide his claws and not scare people too much, even though his whole look will probably still scare them. He's trying his best. He's trying to be friendly. I also decorated the big form in all kinds of silver accessories because I wanted something related to death or at least wolves/werewolves. And again, in contrast with his usual doctor self, I was thinking, what if this looked more like a reaper? Like, he's still a doctor, first and foremost. This form is purely for self-defense or protecting his patients, but despite how intimidating he might look, he is still not a fighter. He'll choose to help in his own ways, like healing or getting injured to safety, like the good lad he is. To match the Reaper theme though, we got little daggers dangling from the hood, and the tail acting like canine teeth, and bones acting like cufflinks, and just one in the scarf and hood to make it look like it's holding it up. Of course, he keeps his bell, and as you can probably tell by how small it is compared to how big it is when he's a plush. Yes, he goes from tiny lad to super big lad when he transforms, because yes, I love giving my characters ridiculous height comparisons. Sue me, you can't stop me, I do what I want. Fun fact for big lad though, we do sadly lose Lavi's fluffy tail. But he does get a ribbon tail, and by that I mean his demon tail is embedded in the ribbon and acts like a tail because I thought it would be cooler than just giving him an actual like fluffy tail, but just navy blue. I also really like the idea of Lavi having a fear of the moon, which I do know is a phobia, so maybe perhaps like a werewolf, Lavi can't be out on the full moons because it gives him a power boost or something. More food for thought later, but now that's my laddies done, and everyone else for that matter. Let's go. Look at all these pirates! I hope this is fun for you all to watch. I really wanted to ramble about my little guys and showcase how far I've come with my art and character design process. Let me know which one of these guys is your favorite, because so far everyone I've shown these guys to have been pretty even. Of course, if you saw the first concepts, they aren't the only designs that are in the making, but I don't think I could make another 4 and make a video about it being like an hour long. So stay tuned for part 2 whenever I get to that. It's gonna take a while, but I really hope you all enjoyed just listening to me ramble, going on about this, and also doing this video format for the first time. Yippee! So hopefully I'll do more stuff like this. I'll get more stuff out. I promise. I'll try. I am trying, guys. I'm really trying. But when you're all by yourself working on this stuff, it is not easy. Especially when you're your own boss, you're your own critic. You can and will just stop yourself from working on this when you think it's not good enough. So until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye!